Hey, everybody. Welcome to Awkward Teenage Years. By round of applause, how many people have been to one of our shows before? Oh, okay, fair few. And how many this is your first time? All right, much rowdier first-timers. Very good. So in case you didn't know what you're in for here, this is the show where we've gathered some of New York City's finest storytellers here in this basement to relive their teenage traumas for your entertainment. Awkward Teenage Years is exactly what it sounds like. It's true stories from our middle and high school years. We talk a lot about things like first crushes and trying drugs and alcohol and failures and embarrassment and success and glories sometimes too, but mostly failures and embarrassment because it's awkward teenage years. But the main thing that really draws us to this material is coming of age. That's kind of the overarching theme of what we do here on the show. I've got four amazing storytellers here for you tonight. We also have a video of another storyteller that we're going to show at the end. And okay, let's get the show rolling. Okay, so I want to bring up our first storyteller for the night. We're really happy to have her back on the show. She was on the show 1 year ago. She is originally from Tennessee, and she's the host of two storytelling shows in Brooklyn, Pretty Women and We Love a Theme. Did I get those right? Yes. Okay. Very excited to welcome Bailey Swilley.
Keep it going for your host. Okay, so listen, I'm 14 years old, and there is nothing I want more than to be a star. Now, I don't know if I'm that talented, but I don't really feel like that's what's important. I think just wanting stardom is, we know in today's world now that you just have to want it, right? So look, I get to my high school, I'm a freshman, and my high school is actually called Bolton Agricultural High School. It is in the country. It is as country as it gets. However, it has a fabulous theater program. And the theater program is run by this very powerful woman named Donna Stevens. And the only way I can be a star is to get through her. So freshman year, I auditioned for the plays. Nothing. Don't get in. I'm like, that's fine. That's just like, it's the beginning. It's just the beginning. But my dad is like, I think you probably aren't good at this. So play soccer. So sophomore year, I play soccer. I'm on the JV team. But they are having school auditions for the plays, and I really want to try out. So I go to try out, and one of the other girls from the JV soccer team also is trying out. Now, let me paint a picture. During this time, like, I don't lift up other women, and I'm not a girl's girl. I don't even know what that is yet. So the picture I want to paint for you, so this girl, she has like tanning bed kissed skin. She is on the homecoming court. She is sexually active. She wears short skirts. I wear t-shirts. Like, that's the vibe. She's not a thespian like me, okay? So we both go to audition for Midsummer Night's Dream, and we both get called back for the role of Helena. Now, I could already tell that you all thought this story was going to be about, like, a journey of self-discovery, how I learned that, like, I'm not talented and that's okay, but that's not what this story is. So get that out of your head. I'm a sophomore, and I'm getting called back for a fucking lead role. So this is huge. And in my head, I'm like, it's going to be okay if I don't get this. Because if anything, like, I'm called back for a lead, so that means, oh, if she doesn't get this, she can be a fairy. And that is okay with me. So I'm like, I'm going to be a fairy, and someday on, like, Behind the Music or, like the E! True Hollywood Story, they're going to have footage of me as a fairy. I'm, like, already planning it out. I'm like, this is going to be fabulous. So I don't get it. I don't even get the fairy. I know. So I call Miss Stevens at home. I ask her why she didn't cast me as even a fairy. And her response was that my voice was too high. I was like, too high to be a fairy? Like, what the fuck? So she was like, yeah, but I encourage you to stay involved. So I was like, okay, cool. So another year passes by, and I still don't have a script in my hand. And I'm really I'm halfway through high school, and I'm seeing the grains of sand go through the hourglass, and I'm really freaking out because I'm a star. So it's junior year, and I'm really I'm getting really frustrated. I'm wondering what is it gonna take? How many times do I have to call her at home to convince her that I need this? And how many times does my dad need to go build sets, And how many times do I have to work backstage at the Miss Wildcat pageant? So this pageant is where things really started to turn for me, and something kind of changed. There was a shift in my mind, okay? So I'm backstage. I'm the stage manager for this annual beauty pageant, and this is Miss Stevens. This is so Miss Stevens. Okay, so Miss Stevens gets her best friend, the AV teacher, Miss Bradley, to sing the national anthem backstage. Not a student, but a teacher. So Miss Bradley is singing the anthem, and she forgets the words. And I have a headset on, and Miss Stevens is yelling at me in the headset, what's going on? Oh my God, what's happening back there? And I'm oh, this is my moment, I could run up to Miss Bradley and I could whisper the lyrics in her ear. I could take the microphone from her and I could finish the song. I know the song. But I just take the headset off, walk away, and laugh. So something was happening inside of me, I was beginning to turn. I was getting cold, I was growing cold. So that happens. And then the next thing that happens early in the year is the annual school lock-in. Are we familiar with a lock-in? So your parents drop you off at 10 p.m. and you're locked in the school with a bunch of other kids, and you have to stay up all night and just hang out until your parents come back and get you at 6 or 7 a.m. No sleeping allowed. And no funny business either, but this is also a theater lock-in, so there's no funny business happening. All the guys are gay, it's all girls and gays. So now that I think about it, maybe there was some funny business going on that I don't. Anyway, okay. So one of the main events at this lock-in is this game we play where we all are refugees who have to get over a wall. And so I just want to let all of you know that I do not participate in this game. Not because I'm woke, but I just think it's dumb. So I don't like this lock-in. I think it's dumb. And the junior year, so that was sophomore year I went and I experienced that. Junior year is around and I'm I'm not doing that this year. And I guess I'm a leader because a lot of my friends also do not go. And so the following Monday in class, Miss Stevens looks at the class and she looks at me directly and she's like, I can't believe you guys didn't come to the lock-in. That was our fundraiser. Now you're all going to have to sell double the amount of bags of pecans this year. So, yeah, I know. So she was looking at me, though. She knew that I led the charge, And so anyway, that happened. And then it was time for another round of auditions. So the play this year is called The Boys Next Door. And I do not get... Are we familiar with this play? You're familiar. Okay, so this is a play that my high school put on, and it's about 4 developmentally disabled men who live in an apartment together. So I just want you all to picture a high school doing this play. Anyway, I don't get in. I am the stage manager, which is literally the worst thing you can be when you are meant to be what? A star. All right, you guys get it. So my job as stage manager is going to, so one of the characters in the play just eats donuts on stage. He sits on stage and like for the majority of the play is eating donuts. And my job is to go to the local donut shop and pick up day-old donuts. They're giving them to us for free and putting them on a plate for him. So this is my job, and like I said, like I'm really at the end of my rope here, and I'm getting bitter. So I take the donuts, all of the cinnamon and sugar ones, I cover with the prop salt and pepper. So, and then just backstage, I'm just listening to him like try to do his lines when he eats them. And so he came backstage after that and screamed at me, "You are so lucky I am such a good actor because I never broke character." And then, of course, he told Miss Stevens. So the following Monday, Miss Stevens looks right at me again, and she's like, "When I find out who did this, they are out." And I really mean it. They are out, out, out. They are not to do any plays. She knew it was me. She knew. She was looking me dead in the eyes. She knew it was me. So, okay, here's the part where I feel like you all are judging me, and I just think it's like, I know we heard like Will's story, and he was like really bad. I was bad too, but in a different way. And so I just feel like it's really important for you all to hear some things about Miss Stevens too, so you know that I'm not totally in the wrong. So Miss Stevens, she wasn't perfect, you know? And so one thing that she did, one exercise she did was she would videotape all of us doing monologues. And then she'd make us sit and watch the video, and one by one, she would tell us who has the look for TV and who doesn't. And she'd be like, dead eyes, bad hair, high voice. That was me. Another time, she told me that I should never try to go for leading ladies because I just don't have the look of a leading lady. And then another time, she found out that I'm a little bit Asian. And so from then on, she was like, "You'll play all the Asian parts." There are no Asian parts. There are no Asian parts. But if there were, it shouldn't be me. Like it shouldn't be me playing them. So anyway, I just want you all to know she was not perfect either. So there's another play on deck, and it's Annie, the musical. And Annie has a high voice. So I have to get this. I need this part. So I sing the absolute shit out of Tomorrow. And I get called back. And it is down to two people, me and a girl with red hair. So you all already know what happens. The girl with red hair gets it, whatever. But then something like really, really, really amazing happened. I go up to the cast list, and I scroll all the way down, and I see my name. And my name is next to the word ingenue. So the ingenue is a part, she does get a solo, and she does get to wear a sparkly dress. And that's really, she's on stage for 30 seconds, but that is all I need. All I need is this sparkly dress. All I need is this tiny solo. But I realized that Miss Stevens was just making me show her that I'm a diva. And when I got up there and I sang my solo, all the hot girls in the chorus were like snickering and like talking about me. And that's how I knew that I had fucking made it! That's my story. Thank you.
Oh, man. So I had a little bit of an opposite theater experience to you. When I was a sophomore, I got cast as Judd in Oklahoma. Not because I was talented, folks, because there were no other guys available to do the play. The director of the play literally begged me to do it. But, you know, it was a big role, and I actually had a really good time doing it. So then I'm like, all right, this is my thing now. Now I'm a theater guy. And so the next year, I went to audition for Sound of Music. Did not get a good part. I got cast as Franz, the Nazi butler. That's about 30 seconds of time on stage. But I had to wear old man makeup, which was put on me by like a freshman who didn't know how to do makeup. And I had to be a Nazi, which is not great. And I was so mad about it that I auditioned for every other play that we did in high school. We also did a play called I Never Saw Another Butterfly, which I don't know if anybody knows that play. Just speaking to the inappropriateness of some selections. Everybody in I Never Saw Another Butterfly is Jewish. It's a play about the Holocaust. I went to high school in Charlotte, North Carolina. There are 2 Jewish people in my high school. Neither of them was in the play. So many people wanted to be in this play that they triple cast all of the roles. And looking back, it's just so cringy to think about it now. I dyed my hair black to be in the play because I thought that made me look more Jewish. And no one told me what a terrible idea that was. And at least if you're going to do it, don't tell anybody. That's why you did it. Yeah, learned a lot in high school, guys. One more time for Bailey, everybody. High school theater stories. We love them. We love high school theater stories so much. All right, let's keep the show moving. You ready for your next storyteller? Yeah? All right. Our next storyteller is another returning guest. This is, I don't even know, 3rd, 4th, 5th time he's been on the show. He has been on the Best of Risk. He's got his own solo show called The Outcast that was here in the Gotham Storytelling Festival last fall. Really excited to have him here. Please welcome Dave Hugh.
When I was 13 years old in the late 80s, I was a shy and naive kid from the Bronx. I didn't have a lot of friends, and I spent a lot of my free time at home playing video games. And one of my favorite video games was Nintendo's Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. All right, nostalgic. All right, you play Lil Mac, an amateur boxer who's ambitious and driven, struggling his way through that boxing circuit to get a chance to be in the ring with Mike Tyson, the boxing champion of the world, and hopefully be the next one. And what I loved about that video game was the colorful characters you had to fight. Just to name a few. We have Glassjaw, this lanky white guy with a fragile jaw. He looks like he lives in Brooklyn. We got Ball Bull from Istanbul, Turkey, whose famous move is to just like charge you like a bull and give you an uppercut and knock you down. And Soda Pop Popinski from Moscow, Russia, that tries to fight you with a soda bottle. Pretty typical in the Bronx. Ironically, what I hated about the game was the opponents. They were impossible to beat. It was annoying and frustrating. I never got a chance to be in the ring with Mike Tyson. And this challenge truly reflected how I felt going to public school. It was predominantly black and Hispanic. I was literally the only Chinese kid in the entire school. And kids made fun of me, not just because of the color of my skin, but the clothes I wore. During that time, everyone's clothes were loose and baggy. My clothes were fit and starch. Crew neck sweaters and beige corduroy pants from the Gap. Because my older sister, Debbie, worked at the Gap and we got the family discount. Yeah. And I struggled to make friends and stand up for myself. And teachers saw that, and they put me in a special class called the resource room. Just like a regular classroom, but smaller, so each student, like myself, got the attention they needed from the teachers. And one of the kids that I befriended, his name was Brian. And we shared one thing in common, our love for video games, especially Nintendo's Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. And Brian reminded me a lot like Little Mac. He was ambitious and driven, but on the spectrum. And one day, he found a cheat code for the video game where you can avoid going through the boxing circuit and get directly in the ring with Mike Tyson. I remember one night I was over at Brian's house in his family living room, and on the TV, I saw a pixelated picture of Mike Tyson, and it said, "Mike is awaiting your challenge." And I see Brian punching in the cheat code with the game controller, and as soon as he hits enter, the screen just faded to black. And I felt my heart was pounding out my chest. I felt the adrenaline running through my body. I was so excited. You know that feeling that you get when you're on a roller coaster and it slowly gets to the top? I felt like I reached that climax that night, but my adrenaline started to wear off, and my body was numb because for over 5 minutes, me and Brian just sat there and stared at the black TV screen. I'm like, Brian, what the fuck, dude? And Brian, being so ambitious and driven and on the spectrum, he went to the back of the TV, and he reset that video cable. In doing so, he inadvertently turned on the VCR, and I heard a tape playing. Shh. And then I hear funky disco music playing on the TV. Bum, 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 bum. And all I see is this gigantic, flesh-colored worm's head with a slanted eye staring at me. 13-year-old shy and naive me thought I was watching Animal Planet. And I was like, wow, cool soundtrack. Then I see the camera zooming out, and I see what looks like a man's hand gripping the body of the earthworm and squeezing the dear life out of it. And I could see the head just turning beet red, and the eye is dilating. And I felt so bad for that earthworm. It was stuck in like a field of hair. And I said, what's going on? And then suddenly the camera starts zooming out. And then I realized it's not a gigantic earthworm. It's a dude's fucking cock. I'm not watching Animal Planet. It's a porno movie. And it felt like I was watching Alien with Sigourney Weaver. Brian freaks out. He runs up to the VCR. He's pressing the eject button as hard as he can, and the tape spits out. And the TV resumes back to the video game. And now I'm in the ring with Mike Tyson, and I get knocked out in the first round. I was not ready for that challenge. After that night, I did not have a desire to play Mike Tyson's Punch-Out again. A couple of weeks later, I remember one afternoon, I was taking a nap, and I had a dream. I don't recall what it was about, but just to satisfy everyone's curiosity, it must have been sexual. Because I felt this warm and fuzzy feeling in my groin and this painful urge to take a piss. And before I can wake up and go to the bathroom, I felt this pop. And it felt like vinegar and baking soda just exploded out of me. And I woke up, and my pants was completely wet. And I freaked out. And 13-year-old me ran to the bathroom, and I put my hand in my pants, and I took it out, and I looked at my palm, and it was white and gooey. I was like, what the fuck? Did I just piss out Elmer's glue? And I was scared, and I just remember I took my solo pants and shorts, and I threw it deep in the hamper, and I put additional clothes over it, even if it was dirty or not. and I hopped in the shower, and I took a bar of Irish Spring, and I started scrubbing down my groin. I made sure it was clean as a whistle. I was embarrassed and scared to tell my mom and dad. And the only person I can trust was Brian. Yeah, right. And I remember one afternoon, I was over at his house in his living room playing Super Mario Brothers. And I told him what happened. And he put the game on pause, and he had this blank stare on his face. And he says, David, you have cancer. And he said that white shit that shot out of you is your bone marrow. And eventually you can go cripple and die. I was devastated, and I just started to cry. And that night, I had to tell Mom and Dad, no matter how embarrassed and scared I was. I remember I sat down with my mom and told her about the incident. And she had this somber look on her face. And she said, David, did you throw it in a hamper? I said, yes. And she said, it's normal because your body's going through changes. You're becoming a man. Does that mean I'm not going to die? No, David. And I felt this weight lifted off my shoulders. Looking back at it today, just like Little Mac struggling his way through the boxing circuit, I was going through my own struggles. I was trying to fit in at school and go through the cycles of puberty. And although I never got a chance to beat Mike Tyson and become the boxing champion of the world, I became a man that's ambitious and driven. Thank you.
All right. Wow. So much going on in that story, huh? I do want to say that I played Mike Tyson's Punch-Out a lot. And I made it to Mike Tyson like a handful of times. I always got knocked out in the first round. So like I think you actually, like that trauma, sorry that happened to you, saved you from a lot of frustration in playing that game over and over again. So, you know, there's that at least. One more time for Dave, everybody. Amazing story. All right, I don't know if you just heard that little sound up there, but I should have mentioned this at the beginning. There it goes again. These pipes, they just they expand and contract, and they make this noise. The ceiling's not going to come down. Everybody's fine. But it does tend to happen like in the most dramatic moment of someone's story, so you know. So now you know it's there, and you won't react when it happens. Okay, that's it. Keeping the show going, folks. Your next storyteller, he lives in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. He's a graphic designer and a writer. He used to host a long-time storytelling show called Big Irv's Storytelling Roadshow. And he's done all the shows, Risk, The Moth, The Artichoke, PBS, you name it, he's been on there before. But this is his first time on our show, which we're very, very excited about. Please welcome to the stage, Adam Selbst.
Yeah, get that microphone down there. Everyone get up for Will. I'm really excited to be on this show. Love that kid. So I'm 17 years old, sitting in Mrs. Buchanan's civics class. This is on Long Island, and I was really excited. This was like one of our final classes. It was my senior year of high school, and she was handing out the forms so that we could register to vote. And I was excited to vote. I was a pretty political kid. I don't know if you could tell by the beret. But I was really going to get out there and get stuff done. So she's explaining a little bit about how it works. And she's like, look, I recommend when you register to vote, you vote for a primary party like a Democrat or Republican, because then you can, it's New York, you can vote in the primary stuff, which is important. She goes, I was like, great. I was already planning on that. And then she said something that surprised me. She said, and my recommendation to you is that you register as a Republican. And I thought this was pretty weird. This is public school. Pretty conservative town, but still, I don't know if Mrs. Buchanan had really gotten my gist yet, but like I was pretty punk rock. I was like making my own clothes, like with the silk screen, and they had like slogans on them and shit. It would like support the police, beat yourself up. Provocative. You know, I was going to art school in the fall. I was certainly not going to register as a goddamn Republican until she told us why, which was because if we wanted one of those cushy beach jobs that they set aside for college students next summer, you know, the whole town was run by Republicans, and if any of us wanted to do that, then we would register as a Republican, which is how, a year later, I ended up, as far as I know, Rockville Center's first art school punk rock Republican, driving on my way to work at the cushy beach job that I had always wanted. Believe me, they're amazing. So when I first got there, the first person I met was Jimmy, maybe. I don't know, who cares? But so I met Jimmy, and Jimmy's like, I don't know, 1,000 years old, and as far as I could tell, his only job is to walk around just like setting random fires. And I was talking to my boss, and my boss was just like, you know, Jimmy's been here a long time. You know, if you see a fire, just, you know, you know what to do. And that's when I realized what kind of job this was. It was a job that you could not be fired from. And I was like, this is perfect. Like, this is going to work out great for me. Here's the thing, though. It didn't. Because while on paper, on the form, on the certificate, it said that that I was a Republican, I actually very much wasn't a Republican. And in fact, I was the kind of non-Republican that would make it fucking everyone else's problem. Absolutely. So they figured me out pretty quick. Pretty quick. I'd been there about a week and a half, and my boss, Jack, calls me into his office, and he goes, Adam, sit down. I got a proposition for you. I'm like, what's going on, Jack? And he goes, how would you like to work alone for the rest of the summer? And I was like, what do you mean? And he goes, listen, we want to give you a job. We got this puppet bus. It's full of puppets. We're going to get you a puppeteer, and you're going to drive all around Long Island, put on puppet shows for all the little kids. And I knew what he was telling me was that we want you to go away because nobody likes you. But what I heard was pretty clear. Showbiz. Kid, we think you got it. So I was like, great, Jack, come in. He goes, great, let's show you how to drive the bus. We walk out to this monstrosity, this thing that it was like a giant bus with a trailer, hitch attached, and like 2 gas tanks, and certainly required a commercial driver's license to drive, which, you know, I didn't need because I was a registered Republican. So he goes, get in, let's see how you do. He goes, drive forward 10 feet. And I did it. Perfect. He goes, drive backwards 10 feet. Immediately jackknifed it. And he goes, you're going to do great, kid. Let's get you out of here. So the way it worked, I would meet the puppeteer in the morning. And then, like, they would follow me because I knew Long Island. I didn't know shit. And they would follow me, and they would put on the puppet shows, and I would do the sound and the driving and stuff. You know, the Republican stuff. And I showed up my first day. I was so excited. I hop in the bus and just take off, and the puppet lady is following me. And I didn't realize this was a commercial vehicle. You were not allowed to drive on, like, the highway, like the parkway, whatever, on Long Island with this stuff. But I didn't know, so I just headed on out. And I don't know if you guys remember. You're probably not as old as I am. But there was this point between where you would have people inside of toll booths and an easy pass where there was like this liminal space where it was like a robotic basket, and you would like fling change in it, and then like the arm would come up, but like it wasn't seamless. So to get off of like from the beach, you have to go onto like whatever, it doesn't matter. There was a toll booth, and I accidentally pulled into the wrong lane, and I didn't have any money, and the puppeteer, the puppet lady, pulled in behind me and blocked me in. So I was like, well, I don't know what to do. So I got out to try and ask her for money, or just ask her to pull out so we could go around. Because, you know, I work for the town. Which was when I see her eyes wild, her eyes pinwheeling around, gesticulating behind me. And I turn around to notice that I had forgotten to put the puppet bus in park. And as I watched in horror, it drove towards the toll booth, tearing off the arm in its in its grill and just started driving down the gangway. Here's something I didn't know. If you destroy a toll booth, an alarm goes off. It sounds like an air raid siren. And people were upset. They were getting out of their cars, and what they were seeing is this 122-pound art school student with very ill-advised dreadlocks running down the parkway after a puppet bus with a giant trailer behind it, packed to the gills with puppets, with an arm stuck in its grill, trundling down to merge with the Southern State Parkway. Screaming, "No, not me." To this day, it is the most athletic thing I've ever done in my entire life. I caught up to that stupid thing. I swung inside like Indiana Jones, but, cooler. And put it firmly into park, put the parking brake on, walked back to the scene of the crime, and sat down and began to cry. Because, while I didn't really like this job so far, and while I wasn't very good at this job, I did really need this job. I needed it for money for books and stuff for school. And the guy that ran the toll booth, there was like one dude there, came out of the, whatever, control booth or whatever they have. And he walks over and he picked up the little pieces of like the arm, and he looked at me, and I could tell he was like really about to let me have it when he looked down and saw my blue Park Field Worker t-shirt, and he threw down the pieces. He goes, "God damn it, do you work for the town?" And I was like, "Yes," crying, weeping. And he goes, "Listen to me, you guys have to stop doing this. Do you know how expensive these things are?" And I'm like, "No." He goes, "Get out of here." So I did. I got back in the puppet bus. I immediately like headed up, and then we got to the site, and I just started like setting up the sound. And meanwhile, the puppet lady is still following me. And I didn't speak to her before this, so she just comes up to me. She goes, "Hey, I saw what happened at the toll booth." And I said, "I know, it's my first day, but it really seems to have worked out all right. I don't know, we're going to be doing that every day." And I saw this look in her eyes that clicked where, you realize that, like, someone you're going to be working with all week is, like, just out of his gourd. And I know it, because I know that's the look that was on my face when I met Jimmy. Here's the thing. Not only did I not get fired, no one even called my boss. Like, it was just business as usual. It's been a long time since I worked that job, and I've gone on to be better at some things and worse even at like some other things. There is one thing that I took away from that very first job, though, that has remained true and has always stuck with me, and that is, in anything, it is so much better to be well connected than it is to be talented. Thank you so much.
Oh, wow. What a story. Oh, my goodness. I also had a beret era. No dreadlocks, but I did have a beret. I think it's amazing that you chased after the car, and like I would have just let it go, I think, like waited for people to show up, and I'd be like, "Oh yeah, we're all trying to find the guy who did this. Where is he?" Wow. I also, I imagine somewhere like Jimmy is telling a story on stage and be like, "And that's when I first saw Adam." The guy who crashed into the toll booth later. We're all scared of him. One more time for Adam, everybody. Great story. Great story. All right. Time for our fourth storyteller of the night. He's another person who's never been on our show before. Really excited to have him here. He is a Brooklyn native. You may have seen him appear on The Moth before. He's also the founder and host of the Muslim Writers Collective. Really excited to bring him to our stage for the first time. Please welcome Hamdan Azhar.
All right, wow. It is so bright up here, I cannot see anyone's face. I just see sparkling glasses, so I love it. So I grew up in Brooklyn. I went to high school at the Bronx High School of Science, which is a very nerdy school. for any New York natives. It has produced 9 Nobel Prize winners. If Bronx Science were a country, it would rank 23rd by Nobel Prize winners, right ahead of China. Pretty wild. And the school is very proud of those Nobel Prize winners that it's produced. The school, unfortunately, also produced me. So this story occurs in October of 2002, which is a wild time in American history. George W. Bush is president. He's about to invade Iraq. He is just launched the Patriot Act, which is a very severe assault on civil liberties. Our vice president is a guy who shot his best friend in the face with a shotgun. It's a weird place and I am a 15-year-old senior in high school, and we have our own incident. We have our own situation at the school because we have a new principal, and her name is Principal Reedy, and she's kind of like a mini George Bush. She is a tyrant. She told us we can't leave the cafeteria during lunchtime to get cheese fries from Kenny's truck across the street. She made us badge in and out every morning like we were in some detention facility at a high school. She would barge into classrooms and start yelling at teachers because they were teaching about ribosomes incorrectly. Just like wild stuff. And here I am, 15 years old. I'm taking like 6 AP classes, and I want to make a difference. And it's like sometimes you look at the world, all this crazy stuff happening, and you're like, how can anyone make a difference? And I kind of had that spark inside me. But the problem is I also had really strict parents, so I couldn't get in trouble. Or if I got in trouble, it had to be for something like no one had ever done before. Like they were those kind of parents. So one day I decide to overthrow my principal. And if that wasn't enough, I wanted to end the war on Iraq at the same time. It's a 2-for-1. Let's do it. So I was a nerdy kid. I had 0 friends, like less than 0. I had 1 friend in freshman year, and then we broke up after a few months because we didn't want to take the same train home together. So I have no friends, and I was like, how do I start a movement? So I'm like, let me make a flyer. This was before Facebook, early days of the internet. But I was pretty dangerous when it came to Paint. It was a software, Microsoft Paint. So I'm sitting there making a flyer. I print out a flyer. It has a picture of George W. Bush, and it has a picture of my principal right next to each other. And it says, stop Bush's war on Iraq. Stop Principal Reedy's war on Bronx Science. And it's just a beautiful flyer. And at the bottom, it says, the Students United for Social Justice will have our first meeting Wednesday at 3 p.m. in room 303. I just made up that student organization. It was just like, I didn't want people to think it was just one kid with a flyer. And then I go to school, right? I go to school. Now remember, I'm a good kid, so maybe a true revolutionary would have occupied some building or even started putting up the flyer. I didn't do that. I went to Ms. Gomez because she's the coordinator of student activities, and she's supposed to approve what flyers go up. So I'm like, Miss Gomez, can you stamp? I just have to put up a flyer for this stupid club. She's like, oh, yeah, of course. She looks at it, her eyes bulge out of her head. She's like, oh, this is a tyrannical principal. So that flyer was contraband. She's like, if I get seen with this, what's going to happen to me? And I'm like, no, come on, just do it. She's like, is it April Fool's Day? What's happening? You're a good kid. And I'm like, please, I really need to do this because I want to stand up for myself. And I think something's happening in the world and we have an obligation to just be true to ourselves and our values. Wouldn't you say that's true? And she was like, just go. If you really want to do this, go to the assistant principal, which is supposed to be something scary to tell a 15-year-old kid, because she did not think I would go to the assistant principal, because I did. I walk into the assistant principal's office, Miss Scott, older African-American woman, a pencil in her hair, very stern. I just walk in, Miss Scott, yes. Can I put up this flyer? Now, this woman does not break character, right? She looks at it. She's like, okay, let me get my stamp. She pulls out a magic marker. She scrawls all over it. Permission denied, may not be posted. Miss Scott. She hands it back to me. That was her first mistake. She hands that paper back to me. Because I went to the library and I made 100 copies. And I started putting them up all over the school. I think I have that flyer on me. This is what it looks like. That's George Bush. That's my principal. That's the permission denied, may not be posted. Listen, the flyer was dangerous before, but that permission denied, that just made it, autograph, first edition. So that took me from bad to badass, let's be real. So I started putting up that flyer. Within 15 minutes, a security guard comes up to me and he's like, listen, man, I don't know what you're doing. We got a lot of complaints. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, we got a lot of complaints. We need to take those flyers. Now, remember, I'm a nerdy kid. I watch a lot of Law & Order. I watch a lot of C-SPAN. I have the Bill of Rights memorized. And I said, under the 4th Amendment, all Americans shall be free from unauthorized search and seizure. I have to ask you, officer, do you have a warrant? And his eyes are like, he went white, like ghost white. And he's like, listen, man, just stay right here. I'm like, is this a detention? Are you detaining me? Do you have probable cause? Can I get your badge number? And the guy is like freaking out. He runs away. Literally, the security guard runs away. I go to AP Calculus. I'm sitting there, learning about Lagrange multipliers or whatever shit we were learning about. I get a call. The principal's office calls me in AP Calculus. And like my teacher's like, you have to go to the principal's office. I'm like, cool. I go there. I'm sitting outside. I'm like doing my homework. Assistant principal comes out to me. She gives me a letter. She says, I already gave you that one letter. I'm going to give you another one. It says the principal is convening an emergency suspension hearing. And it's addressed to my parents. It says, because your son has distributed unauthorized literature on Board of Education property. And my heart sinks because it's like, wow, like I have never gotten in trouble for anything in my life. And now they're bringing my parents into this. Like, it's not fair, right? And then they call my parents. My parents come to the school. Like, I can remember the look of disappointment in my dad's face. He's like, what's happening? Why are you doing this? Like, are we not good parents? Like, is something troubling you? Like, and I was like, don't you guys get it? Like, I'm standing up for what I believe in. I'm being a leader. Isn't that what you always wanted me to do? And I know that if I get suspended, it's going to be bad because it's going to hurt my parents deeply. So I have to do something. I have to get out of this. Remember, I watch a lot of C-SPAN. So I go home and I call the ACLU. They have an office right here. That was back in the day, like before email. So if you call someone, they pick up. But these guys didn't pick up. I left them a voicemail. I was 15 years old. I had not gone through puberty, so the voicemail was like, hi, my name is Hamdan. I'm a student at the Bronx High School of Science. My principal wants to suspend me. No one called me back. I show up to their office the next day. I know where the address is. So I took the one train down to Broad Street. I'm walking into their office with my little backpack. I have my little flyer. There's a young woman at the reception. I tell her my story. Her mouth is hanging open. She was like, because they never had a 15-year-old walking off the street with a flyer with a picture of George Bush and their principal. It's the wildest thing they have ever seen at the ACLU. And they're like, wait right here, wait right here. They call in lawyers. Everyone's like, wait right here, wait right here. Within 15 minutes, I'm sitting at a conference table surrounded by 20 lawyers in suits. And sitting in front of me is Arthur Eisenberg and Donna Lieberman, the executive director of the New York chapter of the ACLU. These are the people I see on TV every day suing John Ashcroft. It was like, I'm living it's like the most incredible thing in the world. And they're all like writing notes. They're like, what was the security guard? Okay, what time was that? What were you doing in AP Calculus? And by the end of that meeting, they have drafted a 20-page letter to the General Counsel of the New York City Board of Education telling them that I am fully within my rights to post this flyer. And if they try to suspend me, they're going to get sued for a lot of money. And it was just the most I think I actually have that letter over here. And by now, I feel like a hero. I'm like incredible. And the lawyers tell me, listen, you're a minor. We can't represent you without your parents' consent. Have them come in. I'm like, you don't get it. My parents are really pissed off at me. They're like, no, we'll explain it to them. So my parents come in. We're all sitting at a meeting. The lawyers are beaming because they're like, you should be so proud of your son. He's a leader. He's inspiring the next generation of civil libertarians. He has his Bill of Rights memorized to the T. And my parents are just like silent, right? They're not saying anything. And I'm like, what happened, right? And then we walk out of that meeting, and my dad finally turns to me, and I'm like, is this the moment, right? This is the moment my dad finally tells me he's proud of me, he loves me. He's like, son, how much are these lawyers going to charge us? And I'm like, no, it's not like that. But long story short, within a few weeks, the school dropped all the charges. I was fully vindicated. And I think back upon that episode in hindsight, and I think, let's be real. I did not stop the war on Iraq. That thing went on for a few years. I did not successfully overthrow my principal. Principal Reedy stayed on for another 15 years. She just retired 2 years ago. But I look back on that story and I look back at, sometimes we look at the world and we're like, how can any of us make a difference? And sometimes all you need is a 15-year-old with a flyer. And then I'm standing here before you telling you this story, and I inspired myself to go out there and be the change I wanted to see in the world. Thank you very much. My name is Hamdan Azhar. That's my story.
Oh, that was a delight. I got to hear that story the other night at our rehearsal, and so I was obviously very excited for you all to hear it, but I didn't know he was going to bring the receipts, So good. One more time for Hamdan, everybody. All right, so we do have a video that we're going to show you, but before we get to that, I just want to quickly do a little housekeeping, tell you a little bit more about our show. In case you're sitting out there tonight and you're thinking, I have a really interesting, fun story about when I was a teenager, we would like to hear about that. You can email us at awkwardteenageyears@gmail.com. It's the best way to get in touch with us. Send us a short pitch of your story, 2-3 paragraphs, what it's all about, and we'll get back to you. We found a lot of people that way. We've also found people through our Instagram. That's where we're most popular on the social media. And we're also on the Facebook, a little bit. We have a Threads. Doesn't everybody? But we're not doing anything there, right? So, and we're off of the Twitter X thing, whatever that was. And then if you want to see our old shows, we have all of the shows we've ever done since 2020 on our except for the one that we didn't get to record, but all the other ones are on our YouTube page. And if you go there, youtube.com/@awkwardteenageyears, you have to put the @ in there, or it doesn't work, and you can find them all. And so now I want to show you one of those stories, actually, from the YouTube. A little bit of sad news. When we first started the show, it was myself and Grant, who I talked about earlier, and Anastassiya Maximenko. We did a 3-person show right here in this space at the Frigid Fringe Festival, which was then, it's now called the New York City Fringe Festival. It just happened. But it was the Fringe Festival the Frigid Fringe Festival for a long time. And we each told 2 stories, and we had a great time doing it. We were offered the chance to do a monthly show here. Unfortunately, that was March of 2020, so we did not start that monthly show right away. But eventually, we did start doing the monthly show. Grant and I continued doing it, and our friend Anastassiya went off to grad school and occasionally came back to tell stories with us. The sad news is that, unfortunately, she passed away about a month and a half ago. And so, this is not her funeral. We did that already. I just want to, honor her tonight, remember her. The stories that she told on our show and elsewhere were so amazing, such an important part of our life. For everybody who's a storyteller here, even if we don't know each other for very long, we get very close very quickly because of the kind of vulnerable things that we tend to share. And so even though I only knew her for a short time, we were very close in that way. And so now I would like to share with you all one of my favorite stories that she told on this very stage back in March of 2020. So Lauren, let's roll it.
So it's a summer, I'm 15, we get together with my 2 other friends and my boyfriend. His name is Ruslan. He's not that cute, but, but he's a really nice guy. Really nice Asian kid. And so we scrape together all our cash, leftovers from grocery shopping or allowance, and we give it everything to Ruslan for him to go and buy the usual, which is 1 liter of vodka, 2 liters of fake orange juice, and then a bag of potato chips Lay's. And if we had some extra money, we would get 2 bags of potato chips Lay's. And we sent Ruslan because the booze buying and drinking age in my homeland, Kazakhstan, is 18. And he's the only 18 in our group. he gets it, and with that usual, we go to this abandoned, broken down preschool. And in our town of, in our small town of 7,000 people, we had actually 10 of those broken down, abandoned preschools. And here's the history lesson. So, basically, after World War II, there was increase in childbirth to the generation that we now call baby boomers. And basically, our town, to accommodate the number of children, they build up 10 preschools. And it's 2-story buildings, enormous, with like beautiful, huge rooms for kids to play. And but with time passage, the childbirth went down, and we had really bad economy. So people start to leave the town or just stop making kids. Not completely. I was made somehow. And in these preschools turn into just empty buildings that they after closed down and got abandoned. And afterwards, like all the residents of our town collectively robbed this building of everything sellable. So, they took windows and doors and toilets, so basically everything must go. And the reason, again, it's 90s and USSR broken down and the economy is shit. So some people even work without pay. So to survive somehow, you just take whatever it is, and sell it. And basically those huge buildings just turn into empty shells and ruins, which we climbed every day to have our usual. And we go to the second floor because we always hang out on the second floor, and it's easier for us to see who is out there, what people are hanging out to. And we all have 2 plastic cups, one for vodka, another one for orange juice. And first shot goes in, and then we chase down with the fake orange juice and 1 or 2 potato chips Lay's. And we have to eat them sparingly because we have 10 shots ahead of us. So we need appetizers, okay? And after 3rd shot, suddenly entire world becomes more fun, more colorful, and we just have our time. And it's close to the evening, and we see that other groups of youth getting into this preschool. And they all carry plastic bags, and we know what is in that plastic bag. And suddenly, 2nd floor becomes very lively. And the reason is that, all the youth of our town is drinking is that there's nothing to do. At least during the academic year, we have school, but in the summer, school is closed, and there's no theater classes or dancing classes, none of that. And not even sports sessions, because our gym was closed for a few years now due to lack of money in the budget. And obviously there is no work for youth because there's not even work for some of the adults. And also vodka helps us to escape reality. The thing is that everyone in school, after graduation, they were expected to go and work in a steel plant. And actually, entire our town was based on that steel plant. Our parents worked there, all the adults worked there, and we were expected, after finishing high school, just work. And, basically this lack of the future turned all the parents, adults, and youth into alcoholics. So we're on the 2nd floor, half of the bottle is down, and we hear guitar. And that means we're gonna have extra fun tonight. Because Ruslan knows how to play guitar. My other friend, she has a very beautiful voice. And I just know all the lyrics to all the songs that are, popular among the drinking youth. So we all go to another room, and Ruslan is friend with everyone. So he's like, hey, hello, and he handshakes everyone. And he gets a guitar, And that's when our concert begins, while dawn slowly falls over our town. So romantic. All right, and now I feel I need to pee, okay? So I had too many drinks in my system, and also I noticed that guitar group had extra booze, so I need to go and free some space. So the toilet is anywhere on the first floor, as long as no one sees you. And I'm on the first floor, and in front of me, I see my mom. And she never seen me drunk before. And we're just standing there and we were staring at each other. And, you know, she never seen me drunk before because basically once I'm drunk, I get home and she's already at work because she works long 9 hours. And when I have a hangover in the morning, my mom sleeps from work. And only my dad sees me. But he's alcoholic, so there's some kind of understanding between one drunk and another drunk. So he actually brings me carbonated water in the morning to fight with the hangovers because he knows that shit works, and it works. But never my mom. My mom never seen me. And we stand there on the first floor and we just look at each other in silence. And then I noticed that she's drunk herself. And it turned out that she had off and she went to drink, have some few drinks with neighbors. Then she came back home and it's late, I'm not home, so she went to look for me. And someone said that I'm in that preschool. And we're looking at each other and we start to cry. But I think we're crying about different things. But then she says, I'll wait for you at home, and she leaves. And I want to tell you that, you know, after this incident, I stopped drinking and turned my life around and so on, but that wouldn't be true. Because I went back upstairs, I finished all the vodka there is to finish, and I just continued drinking until the rest of the summer. But, like, one thought got stuck in my head, which is, I will get out of this town. Thank you. And welcome to the stage again, greatest Will Clegg.
I had to leave that little moment in there because Grant and I used to say that we wish that we could just have her come with us everywhere and announce our entry into the room. She would always just do it like a 1980s style wrestling announcer, you know, just be like, and now it's Grant Bowen! You can't help but clap when someone does that, right? That's one of my favorite stories of hers. And if you'd like, you know, on our YouTube page, I made a playlist of all the shows that she was in, and you can see all of the stories that she's told about growing up in Kazakhstan. They're all just wild and weird and funny and amazing. So if you're so inclined, please check those out. That's our show, folks. So thank you so much for coming out tonight. You've been a wonderful audience. Let's give it up one more time for all of our storytellers here, for Bailey and Dave and Adam and Hamdan and Anastasia, for Lauren up in the tech booth, and our staff here, Frigid, Debbie, and Cameron. And one more time for yourselves for being so wonderful tonight. We do this show once every 2 months. Our next show is going to be July 10th. Hope to see you there. Have a great night.